Hello, I'm Laura Brown, and I teach stained glass at the high school level. Today I'm going to talk about our first window project that I do with my intro students, and we usually just call it apple flower, because you either have an apple pattern that you can choose from or a flower pattern that you can choose from. It's important that students just get a handle on making stained glass projects, simple ones, before they get into the designing aspect of it, because once they are exposed to breaking glass and how the glass functions, then they're going to be more ready to make wise decisions about designs. And I recommend also, if you're not in a teaching scenario, that you practice from a pre-drawn pattern first before you start designing your own patterns, so you get a feel for how glass works and its limits. So anytime we do a project, we always have two patterns. We have a master pattern and we have a glossy paper pattern that we cut out. So if I was an advanced student, I would design this myself, but since this is an intro project, the design's already there for them, which is pretty nice. So they don't have to do any of the no sketching or planning, anything like that. You just have your design and it's numbered. So in this class, what we do is, once we receive the pattern, we pick out either the apple or the flower. We take our glossy paper, and I've already done this ahead of time, and we would lay it on top and tape it down with some masking tape and use rulers. And we actually have some curved rulers. If you feel uncomfortable drawing these shapes out, you can use those curved rulers to get the lines as straight as possible. And I always really emphasize that this needs to look exactly like the master pattern, because if it doesn't, pieces won't fit correctly. So I've used a ruler all along the outside edge and made my lines as straight as possible. Now on the master pattern, here we just have a very thin line. Master patterns in general we draw with pencil. And then for our coated paper patterns, I have my students use a medium point Sharpie. And the reason why we do this is it allows room for the foil. And I'll show that in just a second. So once we're to this point, I want to cut my pieces out, but I don't use regular scissors. I use something called pattern shears. I had an intro video where I briefly introduced pattern shears. But basically what pattern shears are is they're a three-bladed scissor. We have one single blade at the top, and then if you see it from the side, see if it'll focus here, you can see that it has a double blade back here. I recommend practicing with the pattern shears first before you really go at it with this. So what I have my students do is maybe draw a line, and you always want to use the back of the scissors, and you want to kind of move your paper and not move the scissors so much. And what will happen is the black line should drop out, leaving room for the foil. So you'd go through and cut out this entire pattern. And the other important thing to remember is when we're kids, we're used to being able to come in and kind of maneuver a turn like this. What I would do is cut as many straight lines as you can out, so like going edge to edge, and not trying to make really tight turns like here between 8 and 6, because the pattern shears could snag, and that could cause the pattern to rip. So I'm going to start cutting parts of this just so you can see what it looks like when it's cut out. So I come up here and I'm just following that black line. I want to make sure that the single blade is up and the double blades are down. So my single blade is pointing up through this, which is very important. Some kids will try to think that they can just do this with regular scissors, but it's really important to use the pattern shears because they drop out that black line perfectly for the foil. Now this glossy paper pattern, what it's going to be used for eventually is we're actually going to find our glass with it and lay that paper on top of that glass and cut out our glass pieces. So here is the black line that dropped out. So I'm going to go up here, again cutting as many straight lines as possible. I have my single blade facing up, going right down the middle of the line. The double blade is on the bottom. I'm using the back of the scissors and I'm turning the paper. I'm not really turning the scissors so much. So here it got kind of caught, so I might want to back out of it here. And I might want to start from another end so I don't tear the pattern. So again, as many straight lines as possible. I didn't try to make any fancy turns there because I would have ripped my pattern. So I just keep going. And one thing that's really helpful is to make like a little paper envelope or use an envelope you may have to store your pieces in. Another thing that students find helpful sometimes is if they've already chosen their colors for their flower, they could actually write what color is on the flower. Or they could refer back to their master pattern and color it in. This is especially helpful when we get into advanced projects and we have lots of pieces so we know which numbers are which pieces, or which colors. So I'm just going to cut out just a little bit more. Not this entire thing. And then I'm going to show you a piece here. So here we have a piece cut out. Now you might see a little bit of the black line still, but as long as I was in the center most of the time, or as close as I could get it, that Sharpie is going to waver in its thickness a bit. I just want to make sure that there's room for that foil and that that line has been cut out to the best of my ability. So I'd take all these pieces, I'd put them in an envelope somewhere safe, and once all the pieces are cut out, we're ready to find some glass, which will be in a glass breaking demo. Well, that's all for this video.